Ali Vitali, a correspondent from MSNBC, breaks down the initial looks of the bill that just got passed, what's in the bill, and it's probably worse than what one believes. Now, this bill doesn't have to go through. We have to see if Donald Trump is going to bend the wrist, bend the hands, bend the whatever of the senators to force them to pass this bill. Well, he was pretty successful in the House. They made some little bit of changes here and there to the bill to get it through so that it would be face-saving for the Freedom Caucus. The Freedom Caucus was inconsequential, but, Trump gave them a little tick here. The Blue Caucus, the ones who wanted the SALT, meaning the sales tax relief that for the blue states that have high taxes, etc., they gave them a little bit more, to appease them. But basically, the evil within the bill remains. Medicare cuts, SNAP cuts, cuts to green energy. I mean, it is an utter mess. I want you to listen to Ali Vitali, and then we'll come back on the other side.
700 pages of bill text, and then another 40 or so in that much anticipated manager's amendment, which has most of the compromises that Republicans made with leadership in it. It was a lot to parse through, but some of the top lines here. The first piece of this, the top line spending number around $4 trillion, about $2 trillion in cuts, but the actual debt increase is the piece of this that we've heard a lot about from hardline conservatives. According to the Joint Committee on Tax, a nonpartisan group that works with the Congressional Budget Office, $3.8 trillion increase to the debt because of this bill. In large part, that's because of the tax changes that are made here. Extending the 2017 Trump set tax rates was a key priority. It's also one of the biggest things that adds to spending in this package. But another big point of contention was this SALT deduction cap. Now they've negotiated it that the cap will be $40,000. That's up from the $10,000 that was initially negotiated in 2017. That's a big win for people in blue states, people like Mike Lawler and others. So that was a key compromise point. Then also raising the child tax credit, no tax on tips. That was a big promise from President Trump during the campaign. Reforming IRS tax rules on U.S. hostages. Personal privilege on this one because I brought you this story back in January. It basically means that if you are taken hostage or wrongfully detained, you're not going to get hit with some IRS fees on the back end of that detention because, of course, you couldn't have paid your taxes during that time. On energy and tech, terminating Biden-era clean energy credits, this was another point of contention. It now sounds like, according to the manager's amendment, this is going to happen sooner rather than later. That might placate some Republican members who were initially unhappy. Also, investing in U.S. AI infrastructure is another piece in the energy and tech sector. On healthcare, and this is what we've heard Democrats talk about a lot, even some Republicans concerned about this, in large part because by bolstering Medicaid work requirements and increasing eligibility checks, it means that people are going to fall off of healthcare coverage potentially and creates a lot of red tape here. Also, barring Medicaid and CHIP funding for gender-affirming care for minors, a continued attack on the LGBTQ plus community in this bill. Also, blocking Medicaid money from nonprofit reproductive health providers. When you hear people talking about defunding Planned Parenthood, that's this provision, and it actually costs Republicans $300 million to do that. So it's not a cost saver in the end at all, though it does complete a policy priority Republicans have been pushing for a while there. And all in all, this means that 8.6 million Americans, according to the Congressional Budget Office, again, a nonpartisan group that scores or predicts what the impact of the legislation is, 8.6 million Americans will be without health insurance. The fact that these Medicaid work requirements now phase in 2026, earlier than they initially had been written, that placates some Republicans, but it also means that this is now squarely an election issue, as if it wasn't already. On food assistance, it's a similar story. It cuts $260 billion to SNAP, that's the food stamp program, requiring states to share SNAP costs by 2028. That's basically a big overhaul to the basic funding of this system. It also tightens work requirements for SNAP recipients, similar to what we see them doing on Medicaid.
Now, this is just a preliminary look of the bill. I haven't taken a look at the bill, the verbiage myself quite yet. I'm simply dependent on what the highlights are that's been placed in Washington Post and other places. And it is bad. It is bad. And the people that it harms the most the ones that will be harmed the most are those who voted for Trump. The lower end, the working class. Over the years, it takes all of their money and transfers it right up to the top. I mean, it is sad. But here's the thing. If you think that Trump is not, with this bill, isn't going to hurt you, my dear MAGA friends, because they teased you with a few things like no tax on tips, that really you weren't paying tax on tips if you made under a certain amount anyway. It is simply sad. Let me tell you, Oklahoma, very red state. They can't get FEMA help. We've got FEMA cuts and all kinds of cuts that they don't want to spend the money to help Oklahoma, who went through a lot of storms. And the governor of Oklahoma, Huckabee, served Trump directly. Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley was the one on January 6th giving the thumbs up. He was all for January 6th. He was all for protecting Donald Trump. Missouri got hit real bad by storms, and the Missouri mayor is begging for money. Josh Hawley is begging for money. Trump, please come to our assistance. Please listen to us. Trump saying, c'est la vie, bro. FEMA not reacting. Now, if this is happening for Missouri and Oklahoma with Republican governor, Republican senator, not only Republican governor or Republican senator, but MAGA governor and MAGA senator, and you can't get any help from Donald Trump, it's a grift. The guy is in it simply for what we said from the beginning. We told you so. The tariffs were to take all of your money and give it to the wealthy. All of you pay more at Walmart. All of you pay more at Target. All of you pay more in the grocery stores. And the more that you pay goes into the treasury to pay for this bill. Look, this is what we told you you were going to get. Now you got it. The question is, are you going to be smart enough to demand of the senators? The bill goes to the Senate now for conference, right? Not for conference, to put their version of the bill. And then it comes down to conference. It is on you now to ensure that the Senate doesn't take this bill up and just vote for it. Because they can. The Senate can take this bill up and the Senate leader can say, okay, we're going to vote on this bill. And they just vote on the bill and pass it as is. They have the choice to do that. Only you can put the fear into those senators to stop them from doing it, to force them to change it and send it back to the House for conference. And then after it gets into conference, only you can make the change by talking to your individual congresspersons and saying, absolutamente no, absolutely no. It's in your hands. It's not over yet, but it's one step closer to being the major screw-in you've ever gotten. It's in your house right now to determine.